us a little bit about yourself?
Yes, my name is Stephanie Merriott, and I am the principal at Spring Branch Elementary School. I have been in the district for many years. I started off at Sycamore Hills, and I taught third grade and fourth grade there for 10 years. And then I was the assistant principal at Cordy Elementary School for 7 years. And this is my second year at Spring Branch as principal.
All right, that's nice. What is as a principal, what do you do as your daily schedule? How does your daily schedule look like?
So typically in the morning, I get here. School starts at 9 o'clock. 8:40 is when we let kids in the building. I usually show up at about between 7 and 7:30, just to kind of get my day started. So check up on emails, make sure that I have kind of my outline of my meetings for the day, and then get the day started with bringing kids in the building at 8:40. 2 days a week, we have grade level collab times. So I'm in meetings with teachers, talking about data, talking about curriculum, talking about grade level standards, looking at student work sometimes, looking at different resources. So that happens. I sit in on all of our meetings that have to do with special education. So if a student has an IEP, I sit in on all of those meetings. And at Spring Branch, we have the CBSS program that stands for Communication, Behavior, and Social Skills. And that houses about 40 kids. And those are grades K through 5. And those students have since they're in a program, they all also have IEPs. And so it's a lot of those meetings. Dealing with student behaviors is another big part of my day. My favorite days are when I'm able to get into classrooms just to be in classrooms and watch kids work and watch teachers teach. Teacher evaluation is another big part of my job. So going into classrooms and doing teacher observations and scoring those, that sort of thing. So every day is definitely different. So there's not any day that looks the same, and there's not any day that's really typical. So
That's wow. That's quite a lot. I always wondered how, um, on your worst days or days when you're not in the mood, who do you go to? Sometimes I'm like, teachers should have a counselors. How do you do all those stuff? But still be.
that's a really good question, because and since I've been in administration, when I was at Cordy and I was the assistant principal, I had the principal to like bounce ideas off of, or I just got off a really tough parent phone call or something like that. I had somebody that I could go to. So it is kind of an isolating job. I rely a lot on my secretary, and my counselor is awesome. She's kind of a vault. So if I go in, I'm like, okay, I just need somebody that I can talk to for a minute. Also, our instructional coach that's here, she's here about a day or a day and a half every week. She's a great one. And then my building coach that's here every day. She was a teacher last year. This year, they put a building coach in every single building. And that has been a really good kind of a sounding board, and another person, if I just need a little moment to vent, it's nice to have those other people that are kind of a safe place to go to.
Wow, wow, that's nice. You have a lot of people. It seems as if you have a lot of different people you can go to. That's
Mm-hmm. It's important to know who you can go to.
yes, yes, yes. I agree with that. Also, what like how do yeah? You tell you said that you got people to just and to help. If you're going through rough days, you have people you got to talk to. What have been the worst day?
Uh, so I've had some days that it's just like everything happens all at once. So like a kid gets off the bus and they've gotten into a fight on the way to school. And then I have a parent who is upset about something and I have to work with them. And then I've missed a meeting and then I miss being in that classroom. And then I've got 3 kids at my door because they got in trouble at recess. So days like that where it's just one thing right after the other, and there's no time to just kind of mentally debrief and gather my own thoughts. Those days are hard. But I try really, really hard to have a good work-life balance and leave it at school so that I don't carry it home with me. That doesn't always work, but I do try really hard to do that because it's important for self-care, and it's important for being able to be fully present when I'm at work, and also being able to be fully present when I'm at home.
Yeah, yeah. That was actually was gonna be my next question. Right, that's a lot. Work, parents, students. Oh my goodness, missing meetings or some stuff like that. Oh my, I don't know if as a student I could do that.
It can get stressful.
That sounds stressful. Oh my. Okay. Do you have anything else you would like to share about your what you do as a principal?
um I mean, a huge part of being a principal is being an instructional leader. So I feel really fortunate to be a principal in the same district where I was a teacher, because even though curriculum changes and we get new resources, and maybe we rewrite how we're doing something, or standards change, I have a good understanding of what it looks like in the classroom and what district expectations are. So I think it's nice to have a little bit of like street cred with my teachers, because they know that I've taught, and I try and stay current with what's coming down that they're expected to implement. All of our teachers at the elementary level this year are using a new math resource, and we also have a new literacy model. So that's two huge. ELA and math are two of the biggest content areas, and it's all new this year. So that's been really stressful for teachers. So I have tried to really work hard to make sure that I understand what those changes are, and so that I understand best practices, so that I'm able to be a support when they come and ask a question about, hey, I'm working in Reveal Math and this part of the technology component isn't working. What do I do? So that I don't just stare at them and say, I don't know. So it's a lot of just trying to stay current with that kind of thing, and continue having that growth mindset for myself, and also continuing to learn and continuing to be intentional about what I'm learning, so that I can pass that on and be a good instructional leader. So
Wow. So it sounds as if like teachers do have the same kind of work as principals. Seems as if because they get to deal with fights and complaints from parents, miss some other things, and get to come back to into classes and do other stuff.
yeah, they do. I mean, teachers, they have their own group. I think a big difference is teachers have the 20 or 25 kids in their own classroom, and those are the ones that they're in direct communication with those parents and with those students. And as a building principal, you're responsible for all the kids in your building, and knowing just a little bit about every single one, and having that good communication with parents is really important. As a teacher, when I was in the classroom, I worked really hard to call parents often, not just for the bad stuff. And as a principal, it's a little bit harder to do that. When you have 300 kids in your school, you're not calling parents every day, reporting all of the great things, because I'm not in every single classroom for an extended amount of time every single day. So I might not always know. So just for teachers for them to be able to have that positive communication is really important. But that's a big difference, is like just dealing with the kids in your classroom versus all the kids in the school.
And before you actually became a principal, did you thought you were gonna be, or you thought you were just gonna be a teacher for the rest until you retire?
Um, you know, I don't I don't know the answer to that, because I am really driven by having positive impact and having influence. And as a teacher, you have pretty direct control over the things that happen in your classroom. But the higher you go, the more impact you can potentially have, because you're just that circle of influence is growing. And so, coming out of the classroom and being the leader for the building instead of just the leader in my classroom or the leader in my grade level or department, being able to be the leader for the school, and maybe ultimately at some point a leader at the district level. You can impact change the higher you go. I did a internship with the U.S. Department of Education several years ago. It was called the Teaching Ambassador Fellowship. And so there were 10 of us in the nation. And we a lot of it was on policy, education policy at the federal level. But it was interesting because I saw a perspective that my eyes had not been open to, as to how federal policy impacts local decisions and dollars and things like that. So it was a real example of the higher you go, the more impact you can have. And so that's, I don't know that I knew I necessarily wanted to be a principal when I was in the classroom, because my goal in the classroom every day was just to be the best teacher I could be. And I didn't really have, I still don't. I don't have that mentality of like, I'm climbing the ladder to get to the next position. That's just not, and if it presents itself, or if somebody's like, hey, have you ever considered blah, 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 then, I might consider it. But I really work to be the best that I can be in the position that I'm in. So, and that, it's not that I don't have aspirations or that I'm not intrinsically driven to go higher, but I like to focus on where I am.
Yeah, that's good. And before you actually became a teacher, did you graduate high school and then went to college and then started teaching?
Yes. So after I graduated from high school, I went to college, and I was on campus for 3 years, and I graduated early. I student taught the fall of my 4th year, and then I graduated in December. And then I started, when I graduated in December, I was a certified paraprofessional in the district. And then the next year I was a teacher. So, and I went to college not really knowing what I wanted to do. And I still, a lot of people that are in teaching, they're like, I knew I wanted to be a teacher. That's what I always wanted to be. And I did not have that, that's what I definitely want to do. But I know that I knew that I was really passionate, like I said, about helping people, about making a difference, about having an impact. And education, especially in Independence, we have a large population of people that grew up here, that stay here, that live in the community, that continue to live in the community generation after generation. And I think it is so important to give back to the community that helped raise me. And I think it's important to have an influence on our future generations that are going to be taking care of me when I'm old. And I really think it's important to do my part to make our community better. And I think education is a really great way to do that.
That's good. And what else? I have questions. Well, as a student, as a high school student, what are the degree I needed to be like principal? Some.
Um, so at the high school level, the academies were not around when I was there, but that education pathway, I'm sure is a great place to start. As in college, for an elementary degree, you graduate with elementary education, and you kind of take like some gen ed classes that are geared toward being like a generalist, because at elementary we teach everything. So we don't specialize in one content area. By the time you're like, and maybe sophomore, depending on how many hours you take, but definitely by junior year, you're in some of those methods courses, which is just like teaching you how to teach math, teaching you how to teach reading. And then there are usually some practicums in college where you go in and do some observations or maybe help with small groups, that sort of thing. So you kind of get your feet wet being in classrooms. But you don't really get into a classroom until student teaching. And even then, it's not like how it is when you actually get your own classroom. That is, and I don't know how to overhaul the system to make it more supportive or easier for first year teachers, because it is real tough. Those first couple of years teaching is really hard, and teaching is a profession that I think is really undervalued in our society. And I think a lot of, there's the saying of, if you can't do something, teach. And that's not like, we need people going into teaching and going into education that are masters in their field, that are the top students. Because the better caliber of teachers we have, the better caliber of students we'll have. So, there's a direct correlation. So, a lot of people are like, oh, I really love being around kids, so I want to be a teacher. I'm like, takes more than that. And, some of my best teachers, I don't even know that I would say like they love being around kids all the time, but they know how to impart knowledge. They know how to get kids learning. They know how to get kids where they need to be. And that's, I'm really passionate about our teachers need to be of the highest quality. So
I do agree with you on that. I do think that teachers, schools shouldn't just hire people who are just teachers. They should hire people who are really passionate on what they're doing.
mm-hmm.
Last year, I had a teacher who I was in marketing class. Before she was a teacher, I think she had like a degree in something in marketing.
Mm-hmm.
She was so passionate.
Mm-hmm.
Every time I was in class, I didn't care if I would stay there for the whole day. Our day was challenging. She knew what she was doing, and also even though she didn't seem as if she was that person, that kind of teacher who liked to talk to, who was so excited to see students. But on the subjects she was teaching,
Uh-huh.
like she knew what she was saying, and also was exciting for all the students actually to do their work. But now she moved to the old things, independence.
Uh-huh.
Miss Wellington. Now it's like, yeah, I missed her.
Yeah. Yep.
Missed her so much. All right. Okay. Well, okay. As a principal, do teachers really get to come and like get to share how is like whenever you get to hear different teachers coming to you and be like this issue, this issue, this issue, this, how does that work?
Luckily, I don't have too much of that, and I really think that is because I try and prevent that by being really transparent with my communication, and letting teachers know when I know something. So for example, we're in the A reading, A math winter window. So our kids are taking those assessments. And we have a lot of students out on quarantine. And so I've got a lot of teachers who are really worried about them not getting their winter testing in. Well, principals found out that they're going to open a window after winter break for students who missed the winter benchmark because of quarantine. So I just sent that out to my teachers, which seems like kind of one of those, well, of course you did, but I sent out to my teachers and just said, I know a lot of you are worried about this. FYI, I found out they are going to open a window. So if you've got kids on quarantine, don't stress out about when you're going to test them or any of that. And I had 2 teachers come to my office today that just said, thanks for sending out that email. Thanks for letting us know. That really takes a lot of stress off of me. And so when like over communicating, I think heads off some of those problems. They also know, even though this is only my second year here, they also know that, because I told them last year when I started here, if you're going to come with some sort of complaint or frustration or something like that, I will listen to you vent, but then I'm going to want to know, is this just a vent? Are you looking for help problem solving, or do you have an idea of how to make it better? So they know, how to communicate with me to help meet their needs. But I think over communication on my part, being transparent, um, builds that trust, and it kind of stops some of that, um, just coming to report every little thing. They also have a lot of autonomy. I think it's important for them to feel empowered, so they know that, for the most part, I'm going to trust the decisions that they make. And if I have a concern or a problem, I'm going to go right to them and address it instead of talking about it with another grade level team or something like that. So having those open lines of communications, really clear expectations on my part, it really helps to head off some of that kind of negativity and back and forth kind of thing that I think sometimes that can just poison a school. So
Yes, yes. And this can bring a lot of frustration and
mm-hmm.
a lot of anger and hatred.
Yes.
As a principal, what do you mostly like? I know my principal probably have a lot of things he wants our students to know. Like what you teach elementary school, right?
Mm-hmm.
How I don't know it probably might be different with the high school level, but what do you think would a high school principal wanted as high school to know?
What would a high school principal want the high schoolers to know?
Mm.
uh Probably, I think any school leader would want kids to know that every adult in the building cares about them and wants them to be successful. I think principals would want their high schoolers to know, that doing well in school and, not only academically, but also socially, making those good choices, having a good group of friends, being involved, caring about the community that's at the high school. All of those, um, skills that kids are learning are important for success in the real world. And I think that would be something they'd want you to know. They probably want you to know, like, even on days that are really tough,
Mhm.
it's just high school. Like, it will get better. But because those are tough years, and I know that it's, um like, problems seem like the end of the world sometimes, but it'll be okay. um I think they would probably want you to know that, um it is absolutely true. You can do anything you want to do. You can do anything you put your mind to. And it sounds so cliche, but there are so many, teachers and coaches and supports in place, to help you accomplish your dreams. And, I think at the high school level, you're really seeing kids start to discover what they're passionate about and what kind of a difference they want to make in the world. And so, helping them realize that those dreams are achievable, and you just have to communicate it and set a goal, and any adult there will help you accomplish it.
As a principal in your school, or those days where you just feel like you're just having a hard time, do you sometimes like be like, okay, I gotta go talk to some students and just be like, check them out, how they're feeling, how does those days get to happen, and how does they change your mood?
Yeah. So if I'm like, everybody just has kind of like a grumpy day sometimes.
Yes.
And, if I'm in a mood like that, if I walk into any classroom, really, if I walk into it, makes me feel better. But especially if I go into like our pre-K room or our kindergarten classroom, and the minute I walk in, they're just like, Dr. Merriott, they're just so cute and loving. I My students here are really good about saying thank you, for, like, the things that we do for them. They write me sweet little notes about how grateful they are that I'm here. And I mean, they're very, we talk a lot about gratitude and trying to teach kids about it's important to be kind to others. It's important to let others know that you're grateful for them and that kind of thing, and building that character. And so they really do make a conscious effort to show that gratitude and to do their best. And I think they know, I hear a lot of, oh, Dr. Merritt, you're so nice. But then, they, if they do end up getting in trouble for something, I think that because of the relationship that I've built with them, yeah, they might feel bad about what they did, but they feel really bad about like disappointing me, or that they've let me down. And so letting them know, yeah, I'm really sad you made that choice, or whatever the case is, but I forgive you. I still love you. Tomorrow is a new day. How are we going to make this right? And how are we going to move past it? And how are we going to make sure that it's something that doesn't happen again? That's how I know you've grown from it. That's how I know that you are truly sorry. That's how I know that you're ready to work past this and, show the better side of yourself. So
That's actually interesting because I feel like in even in high school we want all the teachers or staff or even students want each other to come and apologizing and just like state out if you made a mistake and just apologize. Even if go to the teacher or principal, even the principal can do the same thing if they did something wrong to you. But I'm just
yes,
surprising even elementary school still get to learn that lesson. That's
yes.
that's really cool. Well, it was really nice to meet you.
Nice to meet you too. Thank you.